What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. There's going to be a graphic there. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia, now in New York City, Zach Vandegrift.
Good to be here. Yes, everybody thinks I'm from New York.
Yes. Yeah, we were just talking about that. What's up, man?
Hey.
Plug everything up front.
Yes.
This will come out Friday on Patreon, Monday everywhere else, so let everybody know where they can find you. Social media, the whole deal.
I just started a show at the Music Inn in the West Village. It's called Rent Controlled. Rent, period, controlled. It's a funny name, so imagine how good the show is.
Yeah, right?
And then I also am going to start running a show called Drip Comedy, and that
I know that show.
It is not up and running yet.
No, but there's
Drip Drop.
Oh, okay.
We were first. Even though we haven't started. But, you know, what can you do? And that will be at the Lost Draft in Soho, May 26th, ideally. So.
Okay, perfect. Social media?
Handy Vandy. I have very sweaty hands.
Handy Vandy.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been trying to make this happen for a little while. I know you from former guest of the show, Drew Tessier's Mics.
Yes.
And you, as you said, everyone always thinks you're from here.
Yep.
Not going to say why, but you're from Atlanta originally.
I'm from Atlanta.
Because I went through your Instagram when we first started following each other, and you've got shows The Laughing Skull and Vortex and all those places.
Let the Record Show, I followed you. You didn't follow me. I unfollowed you. Then I followed you again, and then I got the follow. And now we have
Sometimes
this.
people, because especially at Mike's, people will be like, hey, like, what's your social? And then they do the thing, but I don't get service down there. So then I'll come up, and I just, you start doing other stuff, and you forget, and then I just...
Well, I also hadn't talked to you yet. But
That's
I was
true.
Like, oh, I like your laugh. I like your jokes. So
well, I appreciate that.
Of course. But yeah, I did shows in Atlanta a little bit, but I didn't start there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. So you were raised in Atlanta, or outside of Atlanta?
In Atlanta.
You were raised. Okay, you're gonna have to say where, because I've got a few people from Atlanta who listen to the show, and whenever people say Atlanta, they go, "That's barely Atlanta."
Right.
So where in Atlanta?
I grew up in Alpharetta.
Yeah, shouts out Alpharetta. What's up now, Joe?
Bang bang. It's sketchy, but and then my parents got divorced. Great relationship, though. They're very close now.
Oh, you're not being sarcastic.
No, I'm being dead serious.
Okay.
Like, better relationship now.
So it was amicable.
Very amicable.
That's
Mom called it off, though.
Okay. That's always bananas and bizarre when I hear that, because when my parents first got divorced, they're like, I'm not going to be in another room with that person.
Yeah. No, I've heard horror stories.
Yeah, and it's weird now because they've obviously in their older age, and now people are graduating and getting married, and like there's big events that they both have to be in the room for. And they've kind of squashed the beef, as it were, to use an Atlanta term.
Sure.
But it's still kind of like,
yeah, that's tough.
Put them at separate tables away from each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my parents are like almost too close.
Yeah.
Well, especially my dad. Like, he wants to do Thanksgiving every year. He like invited my mom to his wedding, wanted to do a joint wedding because they were getting married.
This has got to be weird for the significant others.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they're friends, but they're like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah,
like, we'd rather not be, but...
I'm in that situation now because obviously me and Savannah broke up, but I still love to go see the dog.
Okay.
So my current girlfriend is kind of like, hey, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to your ex's house to see the dog? And I'm
Right.
like, well, yeah, I love the dog.
Yeah, that's tough too, because it's like, that's...
You're like the dog in this situation.
The dog. Except they love each other.
Yeah.
Which is, I think tougher for the significant other because you're truly not there for Savannah.
Yeah,
you're there for
the dog. Yeah, that's good point. Wow, that's got to be. So what was it like when your parents get divorced? Where did you end up going?
So then they both got new houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the same area?
Yeah, like 5 minutes away.
Okay. So you grew up in the South. Was that, now I'm going to ask the obvious interviewer dumb question, but was that difficult growing up being kind of the odd person out being Jewish in the South?
Oh, not at all.
Okay.
No. I mean, like, Drew talks about Alabama, and that's
being gay in Alabama and everything.
That's, I'm fruity, but I'm not gay. But, like, there's a lot of Jews in Atlanta.
Okay.
So that was like
Jews,
totally
a lot of blacks, baby. Let's do it.
A lot of Jews and black. I went to, like, a predominantly black middle school.
Okay.
Which was really fun. And, I mean, the Jews and the blacks get along very well.
Derek Gaines has a great bit about this where he talks about when you come from a culture of suffering, you have an inherent connection with people.
It's like the You People movie.
He said it.
Listen, I'm not going to say the word, but it's with like Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
So like that, I think was like a testament to
my God, I did not see that movie. Did you watch it?
Oh, it was terrible.
Okay, yeah, it looked terrible.
It sucks because it's like the idea is valid.
Yeah.
Of like black people, Jewish people, similar-ish struggles, persecuted minorities, but the execution was god awful.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw the trailer for it and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna see this.
I didn't want to watch it, but my black girlfriend wanted to watch it. My words. And I was like, this is a horrible idea.
You're very beautiful, black girl.
Thank you. Everyone's shocked. But yeah, she is very pretty. I'll plug her, Jessica Moody.
Shouts out Jessica.
Shouts Jessica. She's great.
What does she do?
She is in rental management. Hates it.
I was going to say, if she's an artist of any kind, we'll bring her on the show.
Well, she is funnier than me, so there's that. But
that
she's
always
not.
Happens.
I know, but she's not in the space. I did make her do an improv.
Oh, you did?
thing. Yeah, she's at UCB right now.
You do understand how that sounds. My white Jewish boyfriend made my black girlfriend.
I'm just trying to live through her.
Do it. So growing up in Atlanta, is that where you met Jessica?
Yes, but I didn't know her until like right before COVID.
Okay, and then when you, how did you get to New York?
Well, I knew it was a path, like with the face and the comedy. But
with the comedy, the comedy.
Okay, so I started comedy in Chicago.
Okay, so we got to go all the way back then because you just threw another city out there, so it's not a straight line.
There's gonna be a lot of cities. I move a lot.
Okay, so you are living in Atlanta. You're growing up in Atlanta.
I'm growing up in Atlanta. Great childhood. Loved it. Loved black people. Loved Jewish people. Went to blackish middle school. Then got expelled. Went to a Jewish high school.
What did you get expelled for?
Getting into too much trouble.
Okay.
It's a bit of
Put
a bad
a pin
boy.
in that.
Yeah.
We'll come back. So that's why you just wrote middle school on the notes.
Yeah.
So then you, you did talk about this. So then when did you discover stand-up, not as a career path or anything, but when did you just discover comedy?
So I saw like a special or two when I was in high school.
Okay. Can you remember the specials?
It was, I saw Bill Burr's and Louis C.K.'s.
Okay.
And like one of Dave Chappelle's.
All right, okay.
And I was like, oh, this is pretty funny, but never had any drive of like, oh, I want to do this.
So you almost saw them in passing, almost like...
Yeah,
like
more
you
or less.
Sit down and seek them out. Everyone was kind of talking about it, and you're like, oh, let me check this out.
Not even that. It was like when Netflix was getting bigger and like starting to promote specials.
Yeah.
But I didn't even... I know this sounds crazy, but like I didn't even know that stand-up was really a thing other than like... the word stand up. Like I couldn't name a single.
It's not crazy. There's so many people that I've done over almost 200 episodes. There's a lot of people who are in the space now, whether it's comedic acting or comedy or improv, that had no idea that was even a thing.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
Before they were like 15, 16, 17.
That's great. Because I have, I hate to say it, but I have like no drive with stand up. Like,
really?
I really don't like stand-up.
I mean, you have a little bit of a drive because anyone who shows up to the mics, especially
I
in New York,
have a drive in the sense of I would love to be successful at it, and I enjoy doing it when it's going well, but I hate so much of it.
Yeah.
But my drive right now is the sunk cost of I've already committed to like not having a 9 to 5.
You don't like stand-up?
I don't like stand-up. Yeah. which is tough,
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Literally,
what do you mean when you say? Because we were talking about this before we started recording about how pretentious I am and stand-up saved my life, and I'm like, oh, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
When you say you don't
stand-up's
like
ruining my life.
For
sure,
all of us. But when you say you don't like stand-up, you mean all the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah,
Like
I would
the
say
mics and the bombs and the
mics
shitty crowds.
and the bombs and the bringers and the shitty crowds and the schmoozing and just like the lack of meritocracy of like this person has this thing because they know that person rather than like, oh, he or she is super funny. So
well, that's the other problem too, is we were just talking about this, but I just did a show recently and I was kind of like a lot of the comics were very good and then some of the comics were not, and I was just like, but we're all on the same show. Like, and as someone who played sports my whole life, I was always just like, oh, the best person goes.
That's what you think.
The hardest worker gets a spot. But it's like, that's not how it works.
No,
actually,
definitely not.
At all.
Right.
You'd be shocked how many people I've had on the show and they go, oh, we got to get you on the show that they produce. And because I'm not the person who's like online all the time, like, hey, they just forget.
Right.
Which I've done for this show too.
Sure.
But again, I understand exactly what you mean. But it's just so funny to me because I see you at the mics.
Yeah,
and it's like,
hating it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, obviously you love something about it because you're still doing it.
I think I like the torture a little bit.
You're a bit of a masochist.
Big masochist. So my biggest motivating factor right now is the fact that I've told family and friends I'm doing this and I've like posted about doing it. And so now it's just like, if I don't follow through with it, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I've always had the mentality of like, I've heard stories of people don't make it, but I'm like, I'm the main character though. Like that'd
We're
be
all
crazy.
the hero in our own story,
exactly.
man.
So like, I feel like people that haven't made it aren't like those are just stories for me to know what not to do.
I think about this all the time. Like if a meteor was coming at New York or like a missile from God knows where, it's like, yeah, all the NPCs die.
Yeah, exactly.
I am Will Smith in Independence Day in this. But I even have the bit where I say, but sometimes you're Harry Connick Jr. You say a couple funny lines and you die halfway through. Like, it's bizarre to me because I feel that so in my soul about those people didn't make it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make it. And all the stories we hear from the people who have made it, whether it's on, because all I want is to be able to sustain my life by doing this, podcasting, stand-up, stuff like that. Like, I don't have delusions of grandeur. Like, yeah, and my biggest motivating factor is to help people because of the stuff I talk about on stage and the one-man show and stuff is also stuff that people go through and maybe they don't think there's a way out. So it's like a twofold thing. But at the same time, I'm not like, oh, I want to be Kevin Hart and be in movies. Like,
right.
You guys can have that.
Yeah,
like, I want nothing to do with that life.
I don't want to. I'm kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. I just want respect.
Yeah.
Like put me in a club. Like let me perform. I'm not asking to like be selling out arenas, but like I wish that it was like funny meets respect and audience and appreciation.
Yeah. Well, and there's also those shows. This is what keeps me going is when I was doing a show in Jacksonville, this is probably like a year and a half to when I came back into comedy. So I did comedy since 2009. Then when I relapsed in 2014, I was like, I'm not going to get on stage.
I love the
again drunk.
return too of like everyone's been waiting of like, fuck.
The return of the Jedi. But then, so from 2014, 15-ish, all the way until 2018, I didn't do. I was like, I'm not going to touch a mic when I'm drunk. Like,
okay.
And then I would have bouts of sobriety, and I'd go to a couple open mics. But then I would start drinking again, and I was like, I'm not, because I used to embarrass myself drunk.
Did
on
anyone
stage.
like you drunk?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's tough.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
hard to quit if it's like.
Well, towards the end of my alcoholism, everyone realized I had a problem.
Okay.
So everyone was a big fan of Brandon Taft. That was my alter ego in college. Everyone was a big fan of his until they weren't.
Yeah.
Is kind of how it went. But then towards the end, a lot of people would want to drink with me, but I wanted to drink at home by myself, so I couldn't get into any trouble. And so when I came back,
so you could what?
Not get into any trouble because I used to I was pre-law.
Pretty racist.
So I would get in cops' faces and be like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, I know my rights. And they'd be like, well, we're arresting you. So tell that to somebody, but we're taking you in. So then I was like, and I had 2 DUIs. So I was like, I'll just stay at home and drink because my friends were on the television. I talk about it on stage all the time. Like, I love movies and TV, and I think of the characters almost as like people in my life. which is a whole other bag.
Well,
of
that's
worms.
got to be tough too, to be thinking like people don't make it, but not me, because you're literally seeing your friends make it.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing. But the point I wanted to make was the drive is I was doing a show. Daniel Van Kirk, shout out DVK, was coming to Jacksonville, and my buddy who was putting the show on was like, Dan, like you listen to him on podcasts, you're a fan of his. Do you want to open for him? And I was like, yeah. And I invited everybody I knew. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting on the stage. It was like shaking. The stage, it was a tiny room in the back of a bar, but it had a stage. It was like a
You're
club.
drunk at the time.
No. This is when I'm sober.
Oh, okay.
I get sober. I get back into comedy. And then like a year back, someone asked me to do this show. And I remember getting on stage, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world. And I was like, oh, this is why we do the open mics. This is why I fucking resent everyone who gets something that like I feel like they didn't work for.
Sure.
Like this is why I still do all that. Did you ever have a moment, because you've said now that you hate the kind of grind, did you ever have a moment where you were like, oh, this is what I want to do? Before you told your family, before you posted stuff on the internet, like when you first started doing comedy, did you have like a feeling of like, oh, this is where I want to be?
No. To be honest.
This reminds me of Jerry Maguire when he's talking to Rod Tidwell, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, and he goes, it wasn't always about the money, was it? Was it?
Yeah.
Was it?
So it's definitely not about the money for me, but it is about I don't want to say the respect, but it's I don't know what it is, and that definitely gives me like a huge source of angst. But especially like hearing how passionate so many comics are about it, and I think I love writing. That's my favorite thing to do. And I do enjoy performing, but not to the level where like. And it's because I'm at the open mics all the time. I'm not getting that like flow state, and I'm doing what I should be doing kind of thing. If I do a killer show, I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. But I also I understand that I feel the awesomeness from it, from the contrast of like how shitty everything leading up to it is.
The great poet 50 Cent, sunny days wouldn't be special without the rain.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But I do think so. I started in Chicago. I did like.
So what brought you to Chicago?
My sister lived there, who I'm not even close with, but I was like, I just want to be
full or half?
Full.
Okay.
And she and
out of context, that's going to sound real bad on this show.
And, so yeah, no, attraction there. But I was in Chicago, and like I visited. I was like, this is a super cool city.
Yeah.
Let me try this.
Is this in high school or after high school?
This is after college.
Okay.
And
so where did you go to college?
I went to Texas.
Okay.
UT.
So you went from Atlanta to Austin.
Yes.
Then from Austin back to Atlanta.
Straight to Chicago.
Straight to Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you go to school for?
Economics.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is my dad is like an entrepreneur, and he always said like, oh, you should like write for TV or do something creative. And I always thought it was like insulting because he was like, don't come in here, this field, like
this
go
is
write
for the
some
big
jokes.
Boys.
Yeah. And I still had the understanding that like comedy was a gimmick thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it's like, oh, very intelligent, cool, smart, funny, whatever people are doing it. And so then I was studying for the GRE. I thought I was going to get my master's because I was trying to buy time.
Yeah.
And then this girl said that she was studying for the GRE for speech pathology. And I was like, why are we taking the same test? And then after that, I just said, I don't want to do any more school. This is like not, because it rubbed me the wrong way of like, this isn't indicative of like, you do well on this, you're going to be a good economist. This is just like, hey, we
want to make sure you're not a dum-dum.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, let me just pivot. I wrote, and so I told him I want to be a writer, didn't know what that entailed, made some Facebook posts about a day in the life. Got some traction.
Okay. I thought you were going to say I made some Facebook posts about doing stand-up before you even touched a stage.
No, that's
why
crazy.
I had that look on my face where I was like, what?
But I did tell people I was like going to be this writer, and I was like going to Second City, and I was going to
Were you?
And I was, because I was moving to Chicago.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason too. And so then I took some classes at Second City, one of which was stand-up. And I did get that feeling of like, this is cool, and I wasn't good at it, but I knew I could be, and that was like a motivator for me. I was like,
ooh. We found it. We got there.
I'm sorry for that long-winded
No,
explanation.
that's what the show's about, man. We got an hour to fill.
Yeah.
So when you do you count the second city doing the stand-up like almost class? Do you count that as that's the first time you got on stage?
Yeah, I would count that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was avoiding open mics at all costs. I was shitting my pants at the thought of like all these comics that are in these cliques that are so good and that will hate me and whatever.
Yeah.
So I was just doing a class. That was my open mic.
So then when you got that feeling and you were like, okay, I want to keep doing this, how long were you in Chicago for?
I was in Chicago for like 4 months and then COVID hit.
Okay.
So I had done.
And then you had met Jessica at this time, right?
No. So then I
Went home?
I went home right before COVID because I was going to travel around a bit.
Okay.
And then I met Jessica right before I traveled around.
Got it.
COVID hit.
So you're in Chicago for 4 months.
Yes.
You decide to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And was the writing, when was that? Do you remember offhand?
That was 2019, end of 2019.
Okay, so the writing's on the wall where there's like, hey, there's something going on, but this virus or what. The reason I ask is because I remember watching it on the news, and literally in my head, I don't know, I've got this weird catastrophizing complex where in my head I go, oh, this is the end of days.
Oh, interesting.
I'm going to be like, let's fucking saddle up. Like,
So
let's
I was
go.
in Asia.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because
And-
you said you traveled.
And so I was traveling around Asia, and COVID was happening, and
So this is early 2020 or late 2019?
early 2020.
Okay.
And one, no one thought anything of it because everybody already had masks on to begin with.
Yeah.
And then two, when it started getting bad, it was kind of crazy. I went to like 7 different countries, and each country that I left shut down like 2 days
As you
after
left?
I left.
Wow, that's
so that
nuts.
was, a bit of a coincidence. But
The White Devil.
yeah.
So yeah, because it was weird because I remember watching it on the news in in mid 2019. I remember just seeing something on it like quickly, like, oh, there's a virus outbreak in Wuhan, China, and I remember thinking, well, like that's in the movies, like where it like
Sure.
takes over the whole
Yeah.
world. Like that doesn't happen in real life.
It did seem very, because we were in the age of like Trump and propaganda.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seemed very like,
Trumped up, as it were.
Yeah,
Not even like,
right.
No pun intended, but it seemed very much like we're trying to scare everybody kind of a thing.
yes, exactly.
And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't happen in real life. Like, and I studied political science and history, so I was like, in actuality, that stuff doesn't really happen to the degree people think it does because
Sure.
of movies and television. It's the famous Men in Black line. There's always something that's about to end the world. And so I didn't think twice about it because Savannah and I had our move scheduled for mid 2020.
okay.
And so I didn't think twice about it. And then 2020 comes, and then by March, everything's shutting down. And we were supposed to move April 1st of 2020.
Wow. Okay.
And we got a call March 25th. She got a
First day I
call.
had sex with my girlfriend.
Is it? Shouts out. Jessica, what's up?
Thank you.
That's the clip.
Doing God's work.
But she got a call from her work like 7 days before we were supposed to leave saying your transfer's off, like it's over. And so we ended up not moving. So at this time when that's happening with me, you're in Asia.
yeah.
So how long were you? When did you leave?
So I took Jess out on January 4th. And then I left January 6th.
Okay.
That's my alibi. I'm sticking to it. And then I was in Asia for 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you literally, January. Yeah. By the time you're coming back, everything's like.
I
bang,
literally
bang, bang,
had
bang,
like
bang,
the
bang.
last flight.
Last flight out of Shanghai.
And she's like telling me,
Wait, where
like,
was the flight out of? Because that'll be the title
Singapore.
of the episode.
and she's telling me, hey, things are getting back. Maybe you should come back home. And I was like, okay, desperate. We went on one date. And then it turns out if I didn't leave, I'd like
She's gonna kill you.
I'd be stuck in Singapore and probably be arrested for chewing gum, which is illegal. Not even me being racist.
It's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact.
God, that's insane.
Yeah.
So then when you got back, because you were done comedy, you had done it more than just the UCB at that point, or had you only done the UCB?
I'd performed like in class 6 times, and I'd done 3 showcases.
Okay. And then
one open mic.
You went home, you traveled, and then you got
I
back.
traveled because, like, listen, I'm going to be the next big thing. Let me take some time off, travel, get some experience. I mean, I'd literally done 1 open mic.
Yeah.
And now I'm traveling around, and then COVID hit. So I had, and literally all throughout COVID, the only thing keeping me going was, like, I did really well at these showcases because I really was taking comedy seriously, of like writing a ton and making sure that I did well at the show. And then I was like,
so you are competitive.
I am very competitive, especially with myself. And so I was like, when COVID opens up, who knows when that'll be, I'll have like all this material and I'll be like hitting the races and like be huge.
Yeah. So then when COVID happens and you get back from Singapore, are you locked down at home? Are you living with mom, dad,
I'm locked down
Jess?
at home. So I go back home. We have a lake house, and I'm spending most of my time there with Jess.
His father's an entrepreneur. I don't know if you
Let's
heard.
just say people think I'm from New York. And I go...
Let's just say he doesn't do shows in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying?
By choice. And I quarantine.
Theirs or his.
So my second date with Jess is quarantining at my lake house for 2 weeks. Which is love.
The sex makes sense now.
Yeah. First day. What can I say? But we've been talking for 2.5 months.
That's what I was going to say. So you guys go on the first date, you hit it off, and then you're communicating the whole time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not, no one's trying to say anything.
So if anything, it took me 2.5 months.
Yeah. That's, I think Jess would appreciate that a little bit more.
Of course. Also, let the record show, she was stuck at my lake house for 10 days. So
So what
the implications?
What is she gonna do? It's like there's a scene in Always Sunny where
they're on the boat.
We took us out on the boat. We had to have sex with him. He took us out on his boat. What are the implications here? What do you mean implications? What are we implying? What are the implications? I
want to say, not that I even have to qualify it, but like Jess and I were like fully in love. Like we knew, like. Yeah, hate her now, but we're living together, so what can you do? But we're at my lake house, and it's like, it's so clear, like, she's the one, I'm the one.
Yeah.
Like, we are.
Yeah.
We knew.
Lights go dark.
Yes.
Violins play.
Roofie in mouth.
Yeah.
Let's get down to business. Thank you. Clip it.
Clip it. Oh, this is going to have a lot of clips. This is fun.
I hope we go over an hour, by the way.
We will.
Because I want to cut that 15 minutes of me just talking about how I hate comedy and it's terrible and I suck.
Oh, it's staying.
Okay, perfect. Let's move it, though.
You will move it to the end?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
So
they have to work for it.
Eric Walsh is going to be like, there's no comedy in this one. Wait till the end, buddy. Wait till the end.
I want it to open with me saying, yep, I banged her quickly, and it was love.
Another clip. Clip it. Clip it. So when do you go back to doing comedy? So you're at the lake house for 10 days. You stay in Atlanta for COVID, and then...
Yeah.
So in your head, this blows my mind.
Yeah.
In your head, you were like, you're not... I don't know if this is going to sound harsh or not, but I'm going to say it. You're not performing a ton.
No, not at all.
You're barely doing comedy, but in your head, you're like, I need to go to New York.
Well, okay, so this is, two things. One, I am very hard on myself, but I have like super high expectations.
Yeah.
And so like from my first class when I was bombing, I was like, I'm going to be the guy. They don't get it yet because like I'm in this class and I'm one of them, but I'm really not one of them, even though like I'm so bad. And
so hearing you say it out loud is hilarious. That's me all the time,
sure,
everywhere.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm here with you guys, but
I'm like, yeah, we all know. I'm humoring you.
Yeah, I mean...
But so here's the crazy part is I did 2 showcases and then a show at the Laughing Skull right before I left to travel.
Yeah.
And like right before I even met Jess, I like sent her my tape like to prove to her that I'm funny. It was abysmal. But
you can make them laugh. You can make them breakfast.
Sure. And I don't cook, but she does.
Well, that's what the help is for.
Yeah, she's black, but that's not neither here nor there.
Didn't even mean to do that.
But his words.
Sometimes the brain just fires in these weird synapses.
So I
meant because you have a lake house.
Okay, yes. So I did Laughing Skull and I'm no one, but I tell them like, hey, I can bring a bunch of people and I can do this, and I actually have a really good show. I get an agent from that show, which is like pretty nuts.
Earlier how you were saying you hate when people get stuff?
Yeah. Of course.
This is over. We're done. We're done. No,
But I did have a good set, and the agent knew. Like,
so the agent was at the showcase.
It was somebody who was a friend of my parents, who I had never met before, who they didn't even know, like, they were in that space. They're like, hey, they talked to me after, like, hey, how long have you been doing this? I was like, oh, that was like the 4th time I performed. They're like, oh, I know this person in L.A. Let me put you in touch with them. So they knew going in, like, I knew that was the 4th time performing. So it was like that context of, like,
get them all young.
Yeah. So that happened, and that was
when it comes to comedy. When it comes to comedy.
yeah. So that was also a driving force of, like, oh, I really think I can do this, because, like, this agent literally booked me for Edinburgh. I'm like, I performed 4 times in my life.
Yeah.
And
so
my
what
next show,
do you still have the agent?
No, but that was my choice.
Okay.
But so then I moved to
dropping
LA.
agents.
So this is my story. I'm in Atlanta. I'm not performing for a year and a half. For a year and a half, but I'm writing all the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm so funny, because I'm, like, getting better by, like, self-writing and criticizing it. And then I move out to LA because that's where the agent is. So then I was there for a year. It was kind of brutal with her. So then I severed ties.
Yeah.
Then I moved to New York.
Oh, it was brutal with the agent.
Yes.
Jess is with you the whole time.
Jess is with me the whole time. God. Oh, always great with Jess. Except for when I'm projecting.
I thought, to be honest with you, I thought you meant when you said it was brutal with her, I thought you meant that the long distance was brutal.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's where my brain went.
No, Jess is moving with me.
Okay.
And so we're just living life in LA.
Okay, and then things don't go well with the agent. You sever ties with them.
Yeah.
And then you go to New York?
Then I go to New York, yeah.
Okay. So now we're here.
Yes.
And then you end up on this podcast.
Yeah.
Sitting in the same seat. Well, not the same seat, but the same seat that so many other comics have sat in.
I know. It's exciting.
I know. This is fun. So you talked about getting expelled from middle school.
Yeah.
Now, full disclosure to the audience, you are not a drinker.
No.
You've never been a drinker.
No.
Have you ever got drunk?
Yes.
Okay. But you just don't like it.
Yeah, so in high school, I would drink like once a month, but I liked smoking a lot more than drinking.
Weed,
yeah.
Okay.
And I just imagining me chain smoking.
Do you want to say I have a cigarette right there if you want?
No, I'm good. I do like American spirits, though. Of
course you do.
But I don't. I didn't even have to say it. I mean, just call me the K word already. It's like reeking off of you.
When I was texting you, I went to type like. Yeah, that happened.
Sure.
And I was like, oh my God. Because the L and the K are right next to each other.
Yeah, that is tough.
I remember one time I was talking to a black girl, and I said something like, do you want to get lunch? And I hit the Y instead of the U. So I texted her, do you want to get lynch? And I was like, come on, man. Like, when you look like this, you can't be like, right. I swear to God, it was a typo. Yeah.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, the B in the end must be close together and bigger. I mean, that's, holy shit, that's tough.
I've never done that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, cut it. Okay.
So, clip it. Don't cut it. Clip it.
So
Zach saying the B in the.
I never did. I never did that. But yeah, I was never a big drinker. I did have an alter ego, Cam Rellum, because I thought that was Mac Miller's alter ego, who I wasn't even that big of a fan of. Turns out, like, it's not. I would say Camrello, but his is Cam Rellum.
It's an anagram.
Well, it's his name backwards.
Okay, yeah.
Which I didn't even realize. I thought he was just saying Camrello, and I thought that was funny.
So how did you get into drinking? Just friends in high school?
I mean, contrary to popular belief, I was a cool guy.
No, you seem you're very easy to talk to. You seem
thank you.
You seem like you'd be. And
I feel like I've been bombing.
This is great. And we already talked about connection with other people and stuff like that. So I don't disbelieve you there. Mm-hmm. My thing though is
I have to cross my legs.
You are very much. Like, you talk about it on stage. We joke about it all the time.
Yeah.
Because when you have that bit about, like, well, when you tell people you don't drink, they automatically think you have a problem. And you're like, no, I just don't. So for me, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around the fact that you had the same experiences a lot of people who were on the show have of in high school drinking with friends. And so many times when I talk to people, because of alcohol making people feel invincible and feel better, they lean into it. And you leaned away from it,
Yeah.
which I find fascinating.
Sure.
So what was it that, like you said you would drink like maybe once a month?
Yeah.
What was it where you were like, I'm not doing this anymore?
So it's twofold. In high school, every time that I drank, I was like, this is fun, but I'm not like getting that experience that like other people, like that unlimited confidence, or I need to have more and anything.
Are you
like that.
You're on your medications at this point too?
Yeah, I'm on ADD meds,
Yeah.
and I don't think that was a factor. I just really liked smoking. Like when I smoked, I got that of like super talkative, super hyper, super just like wanting to be active. So I always was like, I might as well just smoke instead.
Yeah.
And then in college, right before I went to college, I got insane anxiety. And hook 'em, baby, even though I hated it, so I'm going to put those down. But I had like all this anxiety and OCD. So when I
Put those right there, actually.
I don't know if the endowments are listening, but I really hated my experience.
What happened?
Well, so I had all this anxiety and OCD, and I'm at this like huge party school, and
Texas is one of the biggest party schools below the Mason.
biggest party schools, biggest like in-state schools. Like
Yeah.
it's 98% Texas, and like it's just like very homogenous. And
And then there's you guys.
and then there's
the out-of-state kids. The out-of-state kids.
and
I did that one on purpose. Professional.
Good.
Thank you.
And so, excuse me. I just like had such a like all of these like neuroses and insecurities and like couldn't function well. And so a lot of people would
But
think
you stayed.
I stayed all 4 years, shouldn't have done it.
You
but
really have a problem with like failure, like with quitting.
a little bit. I think, well, I wasn't going to.
I'm not trying to diagnose you or anything, but because I'm the exact same way.
Right.
Like, I've stayed in relationships. I've done things where
Get
I'm
that,
like,
yeah.
this is a fucking terrible idea, but it's like, I'm not going to lose.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
right.
going to keep fucking going.
I think my thing was more like I'm too lazy
Okay.
to apply elsewhere, and I just didn't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know what the issue was, so I was like, I don't know if changing schools is actually
gonna
going to
solve
fix
it,
this.
yeah.
Because like, while I want to say this is Texas's fault, there's also a very good chance this is my fault.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Because everybody around me is having so much fun.
Yeah, it's a huge party.
Yeah.
People love it there. People look at Matthew McConaughey. The guy's in his
yeah.
50s, and he's like obsessed with it.
Yep, a little bit too much, I might say. All right.
You know what they say? He keeps getting older, but those girls stay the same.
Yeah, I definitely think he's having a time for sure. But
We're just rampantly making allegations.
yeah, well, he was like a professor, and I'm sure he's like just fucking supermodels, if I had to guess. But
He's married.
or he's married. Yeah.
I read
okay.
his book, Greenlight. He apparently loves it. And that's another weird thing. Side note.
Yeah, please.
These celebrities and athletes, and I know it from the athlete perspective because I know people who were professional athletes, or because I was in that space playing college football. It is so bizarre how they will have a significant other, and it's almost like the significant other just doesn't want to believe that they're sleeping with other people. Like I've seen it both ways, where they go, no, that's what they do, but I really like my life, so I'm not
Right.
going to ruffle any feathers. And then I've seen it where they're like, no, we're like happy in love, and I'm like, you understand what's happening, right?
Right.
But it's like they're just don't. And we see it with comics sometimes too. Like they go out on the road and like it's A Lion and Sons of Anarchy, an old TV show, but it was, what happens on the road stays on the road. And it's like so weird that people have that mentality. Where
Yeah,
it's
that
like,
is crazy.
Like in his, in people's books, they talk about their loving wife that they love so much, and then they get caught like cheating like
Yeah.
19 times, and you're like, wait, you said.
It is wild. It almost seems like the more they're leaning into the love, the bigger the douche.
When
and the
there's
cheater
more,
they are.
the more Instagram posts you see, the more you're like, oh, that guy's probably
Falling
doing
apart.
something scummy.
Yeah,
With the like, we love each other.
Which
Like,
is
every
so
once in
weird
a
to
while it's
think.
okay, but when
Right.
you're doing it like all the time, you're like, oh, there's something wrong.
You're trying to prove something.
Yeah, exactly. We got off on a tangent. So you're in Texas.
I'm
you
in
don't
Texas.
like
I'm hating it. And so, every time I drink now,
In
not
Texas.
versus in high school, I was like, oh, this is fun, but I don't care that much. In Texas and post, anytime I drink, I get way more anxious, way more neurotic.
So it's going the other way for you. So what it does for
so it was very easy for me to stop drinking.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the ADD medication was because I have a lot of all of us, everyone listening knows people in college who would take Adderall and Vyvanse and all this to study. And the thing was, I remember I had a friend that did that, and the thing is whenever he'd be finished with his final or test or paper or whatever, I'd be like, let's drink. And he would go, it's pointless to drink because I just took these pills. So that's why, because it's I know with Adderall, I literally had a psychologist tell me, well, it's just speed. It's literally the same chemical makeup as speed. So, like, you could drink all you want, but it's like when you drink on cocaine, like, it's not going to do for you what you want.
I always felt like I had a higher tolerance than
That's
those.
why I wanted to ask, because you said that you've been on the ADD medication since you were much younger. So in my head, I was like, oh, well, if you're taking ADD medication, then the alcohol is not going to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, because I feel like in high school, I never got hammered.
Yeah.
I got like a little drunk, but I remember I was really big on every time I would drink, I would want to prove to people that I could still do really good math equations. So I'd say, like, give me a 3-digit number and then multiply that by a 2-digit number.
Can you still do that?
Probably.
452.
Okay.
Multiplied by 21.
Okay, so that's going to be, I think it should be 9,042.
Nailed it.
I mean, I have to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, my phone's up there being the camera.
So that was 452 times 21.
Yeah.
So I'm so off. 9,492.
You were so close.
Yeah, okay, I was
You
closer.
were one digit off.
Yeah.
Or one.
I was one number away.
Yeah.
But so
That's
was
still impressive.
Oh, thank you.
I would have been like, fucking, I don't know. Use a calculator.
Sure.
So you used to get drunk and be like, I can still do.
Yeah.
So what happens at the end of
I'm
college?
pissed now. I just didn't
Go
add
home
450
I
to
know.
that.
Just go home and fucking.
I literally, that's all it was, is that one.
This
The
is really
450.
gonna bother you.
That's the self-hatred coming in. But yeah, so that was a thing, and like that's not why I hated drinking. But and so just in college, I just wouldn't have good
Were you
experiences.
smoking?
Yeah, but I also wasn't having good experiences. Like, I didn't like anything.
So it was
I got
just
into
bad.
Xanax.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
Let's-
really liked.
Let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
because that's the one thing that could give me like peace of mind.
So this is interesting because I know this from rehabs and detoxes and just being in it. Xanax affects the same exact part of your brain that alcohol does, the frontal cortex. So that's where your anxiety is held. That's where your survival instinct as far as anxiety, fear. That's where all that's held in the very front. And so I find it fascinating that obviously drinking, and it's the age-old thing of, well, you obviously just weren't drinking enough. But I think drinking mixed with the ADD medication like nullified that. But then being able to take Xanax, I feel like now you can feel like what the other kids were feeling. Now you're feeling that on Xanax. So for you, when you took Xanax, you were like, oh, this is the thing.
Kind of. I would say more so when I took Xanax. This is so sad to say, but I felt like other kids sober now.
Okay.
And then like, because I was never like a huge partier.
Yeah.
I liked smoking because I liked just like talking and like just like being giddy.
Yeah.
Kind of when I was in high school. And then in college, I was never like, I think even in high school, like that, like sloppy, like never appealed to me. And so when
You just wanted to feel normal.
so the Xanax was to feel normal, and then when I smoked on the Xanax, that was like me smoking in high school again.
Yeah.
Because then I'm at that sober, normal level plus the smoking now.
It's insane when I tell. Have you ever met any of these psychos that just don't have like anxiety or anything like that?
I remember in high school that was a big thing. Nowadays, it's far and few between.
I lived with roommates in college, and one of them, I tried to find him on social media, but he has no social media or internet presence. He just doesn't want to be found. But I want to talk to him so
Probably
badly
hiding
about this
something.
because I was drunk so much in college when we lived together. But I find it so fast. Like, he just wasn't worried about stuff. He was always just like, yeah, we'll figure it out.
That's great.
And I'm like, how is this pot? And my ex was Savannah was very similar in the fact that she had anxiety, but it wasn't like my anxiety is like I'm going to miss the subway. I'm going to be late for work. Vomit. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my apartment. Vomit. Like, that's how my anxiety runs.
Okay.
And like, there's a bit I do where people are like, "Oh, I'm scared to fly on planes," and I go, That's not real anxiety. Like what we're talking about. So, when I would drink the way I would drink, it was because I just wanted to feel normal.
Okay.
I just wanted to feel okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is with the Xanax is like you just got to that leveled state where you're like, "Oh, now I feel like I can like." Relax.
I would totally be an alcoholic if it
gave
good
you that
effects.
same,
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so. How did you get the Xanax? Did you go to the doctor and say like? Did you go to like?
I went to a
uncle?
psychiatrist and and I had to
it.
blow him. I see what you're saying. Okay,
You went the other way. I went.
go the other way. You want these pills? And I went to a psychiatrist because I'm like. In short, this isn't worth getting into because we're gonna get derailed. But like, I have OCD where I just obsess about what somebody said to me once, and it's like I just hear it in my head. Like it's just constantly.
In the words of Bruce Willis, "Welcome to the party, pal."
Yes,
I'm the same way.
And so that
Just over and over,
and over, and like it's like screaming. It's not like hey, I hope I don't think about it. It's like, and then it gets distilled into their name. So it was like the Jake thing, the Jake thing, the Jake thing. Doxed.
You know who you are.
Yeah, show yourself. I'm gonna tag you. And so I'm literally going through college just Jake thing, Jake thing. And it's like, I'm like rushing a fraternity. I'm going to class. I can't function. And it's the first time ever. In high school, I had no anxiety. I was one of those people where it's just like, oh, life will work out, whatever. Which I think is like more normal in high school than it would be when you're like on your own, independence. But so.
What, do you have any idea what triggered it when you went to college? Just being out of the element, being in
I
Texas?
think it was like the insanity of like, now I'm on my own. And then I also took an edible, freaked out like right before and started getting the voices. And so then it was kind of like a cyclical thing of like, I'm freaking out about the fact that I have the voices. And then the voices are getting stronger
because you're freaking out.
Because I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And so
it's a vicious circle.
It's terrible. So that was happening. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to be trying to function through college. I don't want this to be happening. So it's just getting louder. And then I meet with a psychiatrist. He prescribes me Ativan. It's helping a fair amount. And then I'm like, but I wouldn't mind if it's stronger. And he also didn't tell me take it as needed. Even though I kind of needed it all the time.
Yeah.
But
he didn't tell you take it as needed?
Didn't tell me take it as needed.
So he just gave you the pills?
Yeah, which is like basically as addictive as Xanax. And so the next thing I know, I'm just buying Xanax from like whoever I can.
Oh, so you didn't even get Xanax from...
No, it wasn't prescribed.
Oh, wow. So what were you getting?
I had like a legitimate addiction.
Yeah, this is breaking news for everybody. Eric Walsh goes, what are you guys even going to talk about? He doesn't drink. Well,
I know. What a douche. I have struggle, Eric.
He wouldn't know. He's 6'5".
Connecticut.
Ugh.
Yeah. Pretty gross.
I'm just going to keep doing this till he comes on the show.
Have you asked him?
Yeah, he won't
and he's
come
above
on.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, my. What a douche.
Yeah. He's better than Joe List, apparently.
Clip bet.
Clip bet.
Sending that to Joey. Okay.
So content that's coming your way.
I was taking Xanax a lot, and I was like really enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Like it was a great
So
time.
this is what year in college? Freshman year?
This is freshman year.
So you were out of the gate were like, I can't do this.
Yes.
It's good of you to realize it so early because
well, nothing was getting better.
Yeah. I mean, I struggled with my anxiety and stuff until I happenstance fell into drinking. And then I was like, oh, this makes it go away. But like I would have just kept doing what I was doing, like dealing, like not even dealing, like obviously.
I mean, so we basically had the same
scars
thing
and stuff because
right.
I just was like, I don't know what to do. My brain, and I would have just kept doing that had I not stumbled into drinking.
Sure.
And then it was like, oh, this makes everything quiet. I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Well, so that's the exact same thing, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but you're saying I just found it earlier.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying good on you for getting to college and being like, oh, I can't do this, like, and then going to see a doctor. Like I never did that. I was just kind of like out there in the wind until much later in my life. So then you start buying Xanax, which is easy to find in college.
Yeah.
What do you know what you're taking as far as the
I'm taking 2 milligrams.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big boy Xanax.
I got a high tolerance.
That's
what can I say?
That's what is that? The yellows?
No, I mean that's like the standard like white Xanax written on the back of it. But
because a lot of people break those.
Oh yeah, I'd go full.
Yeah.
And I'd smoke on it and I'd drink on it. Like
Hell
I
yeah.
was fully.
Now it's a fucking party.
Yeah, I was the guy. What can I say? And then I'd also do Hulks. And
What's a Hulk?
It's like the green,
Yeah.
like super ones.
Yeah, so the green ones, and then there's the yellow ones, which everyone called school buses.
Okay.
And I'm only familiar with this because I was never a big Xanax guy because I
Sure.
would just drink. But I had an ex in college who would take Xanax because she hated the taste of alcohol, and she's like, "Oh, I can get fucked up
that's
just taking
great.
Xanax." And she would literally call me some days and be like, "Hey, you're not gonna like this, but like I woke up somewhere I'm not supposed to be." And I'll be like, "Well, what did you do?" And she goes, "No idea, don't remember. Took a school bus." And I thought she meant like took a school bus. She meant she took a school bus, like the Xanax.
Sure.
So she just blacked out and has no recollection of the evening.
Wow.
So that's why, like,
But was she waking up in somebody's bed?
yeah, that's why
Okay.
she called. But I was gonna leave that out.
Sure.
Clip it.
Sorry.
But
And how did that make you feel?
no. But what I'm saying is that's my only affiliation until I was much older with Xanax. Was
Yeah.
like, oh, this gets people fucked.
Yeah,
up.
like you literally Xanax is like almost excusable in terms of like you did something wrong
Yeah.
and you don't know.
It's like Xanax and like being like obliviously hammered are the two times where people go, like, yeah, that was fucked up. Don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But we get it.
yeah, right.
Because the Xanax thing, man, that blew my mind. Where I was like, I was such a hypocrite because I'd be like, how do you not know what you did last
Yeah,
night? And
I
then
totally
I've
get
woken up in jail cells and been like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah. No, I like literally don't remember 75% of my freshman year.
God, so
Yeah.
you were just ripping and rolling. So how long were you doing the Xanax? Was this all through college?
No, it
When
was
did
just
you-
4 months.
When did you realize you had an issue? Here it comes.
Well, it wasn't like super correlated to Xanax, but I was back home over the summer, and my dad was out of town, and he told me under no circumstances are you allowed at the house, and so
Wow. Were you guys?
excuse me. And just because I'd like gotten into some trouble. Well, my mom has a house, so it was
okay.
like, yeah, sorry. He's like, you must be on the streets.
You're in
until
the
I get
lake
back."
house
Yeah, right.
until I get back.
And so he
So your dad's going out of town, and he goes, "You're staying at your mom's."
staying at your mom's
You are
or
not-
friends. Don't go to my house. 'Cause
And you had gotten in trouble at college?
in college and just like at his house, like just doing stupid stuff. I think that I had he had told me it was like my stepsister's bat mitzvah at the time. I was back. It's my freshman year of college. He's like, don't go in your room because her grandparents are staying there. And my girlfriend and I went at the time, went in the room, had sex. I left like my bong in there. It was just like, he like came home, like saw us, like the sheets everywhere or whatever, because I got dirty. And then like literally he's like kicking me out of the house because he's pissed. And then rightfully so. And then I'm like, hey, I know this isn't a good look, but I left a bong in there. I feel like I should tell you. And so it was just like that was like
So for
right
very
before.
good reason,
For very
your
good
dad was
reasons.
like,
Yeah.
"You're
Because my
not
dad's
fucking
a
up."
very like chill guy.
Yeah.
But he's like, you lost the trust. So like I don't want you.
I also find it's interesting how much you value respect.
Yeah. Well, but this is also like I'm on Xanax.
Yeah.
Like I don't like
Good caveat, because I had forgot, because at the time, and the timeline was messed up in my head, I had forgotten that you were on Xanax at the time.
I'm like literally like I'm falling apart at the seams.
Yeah.
I'm obsessing about this kid named Jake, and I'm just on Xanax. And so
It's not some kid. You know who you are, Jake.
it's let's just say he's from New York.
Yeah.
And so I was
Let's just say he knows someone who's an agent. You know what I mean?
right. So I was I like immediately went to my dad's house.
So you're back for the ssummer.
I'm back for the summer. He said,
Under
"Don't go
no
to my, under no
circumstance."
circumstances." And I was like, "Well, this is a pretty good circumstance. I would love to be there. You know, it'd be fun." Because I don't want to be at my mom's. I want to be at his house. And I bring my
Does he have a
girlfriend.
nicer house?
He does have a nicer house, and like it's like we'd be home alone.
Yeah.
So it's like it's that element. And so I bring my girlfriend.
Okay.
It's
just scrub through all this.
yeah. And so we see some cars there which like my dad has cars there all the time. So I'm like, this isn't super weird, but there's also a chance that.
What do you mean you see?
There are like people working on the house. I think my dad might be in the CIA. It's
Okay.
a whole thing. And so,
It's not. We're gonna move.
yeah, briefly.
I don't need the shadow
Pin it.
band on everything.
And so, yeah. And so, we get there.
Let's end this guy's career.
Right. And so I'm like, oh, fuck, this might be my stepsister with like a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it.
So there's other people still around the house. Just because your dad's gone, like you have stepsisters and
But like, I know that my dad and my stepmom are gone.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm like, it's okay if this
We'll
happens. But
risk
I
it.
we drove here. We're tired. It's like past midnight. We get there. I go through the place. The alarm goes off, and I'm like trying to like fit. I don't think
not the code.
I don't think I was on Xanax, but like I'm like trying to like figure because I'm like panicking, like
Yeah.
fuck, I'm like waking everybody up, and so then I finally get it, but like I imagine.
Oh, you got the
everybody's-
code?
I got the code. I knew the code, but like
No, I was thinking maybe he had changed the code.
Oh,
And he
yeah,
was,
no, he didn't change the code.
Because that would be a fucking boss move.
that would be great. Mad respect to him for that. But so then I don't say mad, but it sounded natural.
right, yeah.
Thank you. And so I like
Atlanta, baby.
I go to my stepsister's room. I like wake her up. I say,
so they're there. They're in the
They're
house.
there, yeah. And I'm like, it's like 1 a.m. And I'm like, where's the babysitter? And so then I go to the babysitter's room because I wanted to like let her know, like, hey, you're not
Yeah.
being burgled. And so, a polite burglar would do that, the courtesy. And so I'm like knocking on the door, no answer. I go to my room because I'm like, I guess she's doing something.
So wait, your stepsister's there, and then who's the babysitter for?
For my stepsister, because she was like bat mitzvah. She's
Oh,
like
okay,
13.
okay. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
out of town.
Yeah.
And so
So their dad and stepmom are out of town.
Yes.
But the little sister's staying there. The
Correct.
little sister has a babysitter.
has a babysitter. The next day, nobody's there. And I'm like, honestly, it'd probably be smart to dip.
Get out of here.
But then I take some Xanax and smoke some weed, and I'm like,
I'm
this
hanging
is,
out. I'm
this
having
is
a good
nice. He
time.
has a nice backyard, and so we're hanging out, and then I get a text from my stepsister, which was kind of concerning because it wasn't my birthday. Yeah, she said we are home. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like sprinting around the house because I'm just like. I think it was one, I think that she saw that I was smoking.
Yeah.
And then two, it's like it wasn't a good look last night. So I'm sprinting around the house so that I don't have to go through it to see them. I get to the door handle of my car and I'm like, oh my God, I left my keys inside the house. So now I'm like knocking on the door of my own house to introduce myself to this person.
To the babysitter.
To the babysitter who like only knows me as like a thief in the
burglar.
night. Yeah, exactly.
Thief in the night.
And so I'm like, hey, my name's Zach. I live here, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And like completely disregards everything that I'm telling her. I'm like, also, I look so fucked up.
Yeah,
I'm on
and you know she's telling your dad.
100%. And she doesn't even respond to what I said. She said, some party you had last night. And I'll tell you right now, I know she's not referring to me like begging my girlfriend to Jack Johnson and passing out immediately. But she literally.
Jack Johnson, good pull.
Thank you. I was a huge fan in high
Banana
school.
pancakes? Whew.
Yes. I wish I had more. I like haven't listened to him since high school, but I was a big fan.
You know what's fun?
Hit me.
I do this from time to time. I go, because I listen to Pandora now because I'm old. Everyone listens to Spotify. Go into your old Apple Music and just hit shuffle. I don't know if you're an Apple Music
I used
guy.
to buy music.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
So I, in college, would buy songs.
Okay.
And these are the songs that I would drink to and party to and stuff like that, or work out to. And since I've gotten into streaming music, I have not listened to my old library in forever. And then the other day I was on the train and just was like, oh, Apple Music. It's a bunch of comedy albums and stuff. And I just hit shuffle. It is like a blast from the past. Like
Because Apple Music also has your regular
it has
music.
everything that I had bought.
Okay, right.
But I haven't gone to my purchased playlist or my
Sure.
purchased library in so long.
Yeah.
And then I just hit shuffle on my purchased library, and dude, it's
I love nostalgia.
like Jack
That's like my
Johnson's
favorite
coming
thing.
up. That's what
Yeah.
reminded me of it and stuff, and all these songs that I haven't listened to like high school. Because you got to remember, I was in high school when all that stuff was coming out.
Sure.
So like, I have songs from like the mid 2000s that
Right.
I haven't heard in a decade. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god,
That's great.
So just side note, Jack Johnson, great one to bang to.
Yes, great. Especially
So-
missionary.
What party? What party was she talking about? Just the alarm going
She
off?
didn't tell me. Like I said, what do you mean? And she goes, some party. And I was like, well, great to meet you. And then I dipped. And then I literally got a call from my dad.
Within 30 seconds?
Yeah, and just furious. And so then
Did you explain to him, like, there was no party? Like, I just came home and the alarm went off?
I don't think that she told him there was a party.
Okay.
I think that she was just alluding to, like, hey, way to be reckless last night.
Yeah, wake everybody up.
And so I
and
like,
you know your dad told her under no circumstances.
yes, exactly. So my dad is like a very chill guy, has very minimal rules. And so it's like so easy to just follow what he asks. And if you break it, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He asked for so little. And so I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Actual trouble.
Actual trouble. So I just broke down, like told him like I'm so, like I don't know who I am anymore. Like I'm addicted to Xanax. Like I have these obsessive thoughts all the time. Like, cause I was like, they knew something was up, but I'm like a pretty high functioning drug addict, I guess.
Yeah.
And also just like, they weren't seeing me that much because I'm in college.
Yeah.
And then it's months at this point that I've had the obsessive thoughts that you kind of just like get used to it. It becomes a part of your life. You're not
Absolutely.
happy about it, but you can function with it.
Yeah.
So they didn't understand the extent of everything. And so then when I broke down, told them all that, they were like, okay, we're going to get you clean. We're going to get you like on a good schedule. I was like waking up at like 3 p.m., going to bed at like 4 a.m.
Was your dad relieved because he was like, oh, like this is something we can fix? Did you ever have that conversation with him?
Maybe. I think that, yeah.
I think it's a big thing when you finally go like, hey, I need help.
Right.
It's a big thing for people to be like, thank God you're finally recognizing that you need help.
I think that they truly didn't know.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
I
Well,
really was hiding it.
Yeah, and they don't deal with it that often. So I'll say this for the listeners, and it's not going to be a popular thought for the people who are outside of the circumstance.
Yep.
Best card to play.
100%.
Any kind of trouble you get into, throw the, I've got a fucking serious problem. I don't know what to do. I need help.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they just want to help you.
You fucking put on some ice skates. You just start skating out of everything.
It really is.
When it comes to your family, judges
card.
not so much. Judges not so much.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to help you by jailing you.
Yeah. Do you know how many times I've heard that today? Have you been in here for the last hour?
So that was like a big thing and like a turning point. But it was also like, and I totally understand why, but they're like, oh, okay, no more Xanax. So I went from Xanax every day to cold turkey.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, so that was fucking tough.
Did you get the shakes and the throwing up and the
I got the
sweats?
shakes and like I literally wake up dripping in sweat for years.
Yeah, for
years.
years.
Yeah, for years, which I think is just anxiety at that point. I don't even know if I can.
Well, so it's withdrawals and then it turns into anxiety.
Right.
I mean, that happens. I've been sober 5 years and I still wake up like that.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Well, I don't know if it's good, but it's normal.
Yeah, okay.
In our circumstance.
Right.
So you kick the Xanax. So you haven't done Xanax since?
So my sophomore year, I probably did Xanax like once a month.
Okay.
Like I was,
you were away
so
from the
then I
everyday
met
thing.
with a psychiatrist again, a different one. And they're like, oh, what? I can't believe they prescribed you Ativan to take daily. You should only do it as needed. They prescribed me Klonopin.
Yeah, that's what I got. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so then I was
a
taking
time
Klonopin.
release. Like you
Yes.
take it in the morning, it lasts all day, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So I was taking Klonopin every day, as I should have. And then, but I wanted to get off of it. So I did that. And then for first semester, second semester, I took half. And then summer, I got off of it. And then I was taking Xanax like once a month for like a special occasion.
For partying, yeah.
For partying. And then I really didn't take Xanax frequently afterwards.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Thank you.
See, and that's I know Jamie Wolf talks about it too. Like once you like get caught up in it, you can get caught up quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's one of those things where if you said to someone that you were addicted to pills, they'd be like, you?
I know.
No.
Yeah.
But you're like, no. And Jamie's the same way. Like when you look at me, you go, yeah, you're aggressive, you're loud, you seem like you'd be a fucking raging alcoholic. But with like, especially like you and Jamie and like even Joe List, like he seems so unassuming.
Yeah.
Like he's such a sweet guy that you're like, you had a problem? He's like, oh yeah, like a huge problem. So I love hearing that. But you still have maintained in your time in New York that you just don't really drink either. So you still
not at
smoke
all.
though, right?
I'll go through phases. Like I won't smoke for a couple months and then I'll take some edibles or smoke a little bit for the weekend, and then I'll get over it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And but I hate being sober. Like, I'm not enjoying life.
Yeah.
And so, like,
you have one of the best bits I've ever heard about it.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you
Never
want to burn
fucking
it, but
does well.
To me, it's one of the greatest bits I've ever heard.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Because it's so true.
It really is so true. And
Especially
we're like dancing around it. And so, I mean, I almost want to just say it here so I can like, have it. Well, so essentially,
clip it?
Every time that like I go out with my friends, it feels like I'm walking into an intervention in reverse.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of them hammered complaining about my sobriety, which like really sucks because when somebody says, "Hey, I don't like you after Jaeger bombs," it's one thing if someone says like, "I don't like you after Jaeger bombs." That's just a fix. It's another thing if someone's like, "Hey, I don't like you when you're being you." It's like, oh, so it's just the general vibe.
It's just me.
Right. I really hope that works someday. But I don't like me sober either.
Yeah.
Like it's because it's like I want to do something about it. But doing something about it would require me then doing drugs or alcohol. And then it's like, what's happening?
And it's weird too because there are times, because obviously I'm in a super secret program. I can't tell you about it because it's strictly anonymous. Sure. But there are times where everyone's like, oh, it'll pass. This too shall pass. Yeah. Like, you'll get over it. Just give it time. Time takes time and all that stuff, which is true. But in the moment when I'm going through something, I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill everybody. Like, I need something to nullify this feeling. And eventually, you know, I do everything that I'm asked to do and required to do to stay sober, and then it goes away. And they're right. And it works.
Well, it sucks, too, because I do see a world in which we are successful comics, and that is the drug.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is in the moment when I'm totally sober with myself and something's wrong in my brain as far as like my anxiety or my rage or whatever it is, I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want
an open mic.
No. Like in my own head.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah,
I want to take something to make this go away.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I totally understand that when you're saying like, I don't like being sober either, but I am. So like, what are we going to do? And I completely agree with you. I think because I've had good sets in the last couple months, and I'm like, oh, this is all I need. Like a couple good sets. I know we've been talking about them a lot, but I was at the stand the other night, and Joe was going to leave, and he goes, "Yeah, 2 early sets, went 2 for 2." And then Richie Redding goes, "Oh, you didn't have like that one set, like too many, and it went poorly?" And he goes, "No, actually, I think this is probably the best night of my life." And he left. But it's so true because, like, as comics, you can have a bad set and it can ruin it doesn't matter what you did that day.
Sure.
So I do want to get to the
I can
point.
have a good set and one line didn't work.
And then you're like, it's over. But I think you're right. I think having comedy and doing well at it is a very good substitute where it's like, oh, this is fun. This is good.
I mean, Jamie's killing it. Joe's killing it.
They're all killing it.
It's
we're killing it.
We're killing it. But I think that's why I'm unassuming as well, is because I've been sober for so long and I've like learned to navigate how my mind works that now like I talk like my intrusive thoughts. Yeah. And so people are like, oh, wow, you're very like articulate and you're very put together. And it's just been from years of like having to like
hammering it home
and like lawyer my way out of like why this shouldn't matter and why I should focus on this or whatever. And it's like, it's funny because like everybody is always shocked when they find out that I did drugs or whatever the case may be because of the way that I am. But it's like, I am the way that I am because
you
of
did all that, yeah.
I did all that. And because my mind's like, my mind's working without the drugs. Yeah. This is why you see this, because I am a sober person. So it's like, it's just pure neuroses.
Just like a Super Saiyan of some sort. We have time for one more story. I wanted you to tell, I mean, it's not too long. How did you get kicked out of middle school?
God, how long have we been going for?
Like an hour 10.
Damn. I'm having fun.
Do you want to come back?
Sure, I'd love to come back.
We'll save it.
Can you not do longer? Or like we cut out the first?
No. I can. Obviously, the studio is my apartment.
Sure.
But I got a lot of stuff on tap.
Oh, okay. Fair. Okay, so I got...
Definitely going to cut that out. No. Save it. Save it. You'll come back on the show.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. We'll do a part 2. A part 2, as it were.
That'd be great.
Take that, Eric Walsh.
Well, I have that in the paddling.
Yeah,
and,
you had that, the paddling, and then we also have to talk about chess.
Yes. Okay, so I have a lot for you.
Yeah, you're coming back. See,
Sure.
this is what I love, is doing the show. A lot of times we can get off on stuff that's still relatable to the show, but we just don't touch the stories.
Right.
So we'll have you back on.
Okay, perfect.
Plug everything one more time.
So I'm doing Rent Controlled. That is this Friday. I don't know when this is coming out.
This will come out tomorrow, Friday.
Okay, so today, on Friday, Rent Controlled
Well,
at
for
9
Patreon,
p.m.
it comes out for everyone else on Monday.
Okay. If you enjoyed hearing this Jew talk about his neuroses, you can see him at 9 p.m. at the Music Inn in the West Village on Friday. On the 12th, yeah. I
Yeah,
think.
so when is it next month?
And then next month, pending.
Okay.
But follow the page, rent.controlled.
Yeah.
And then there's Drip Comedy, which should be on May 26th.
And then Handy Vandy
Handy Vandy.
on social media.
Yes.
Thank you again for coming
Of
on,
course.
dude.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the one-man show premiering on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif, May 31st at 3 p.m. And thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care. How'd that go, honestly? Okay, sweet.